Hello everyone, I'm Julie Muhn, Senior Research Analyst with Finovate, and now we have a keynote session you are going to want to pay attention to. We'll be talking the blockchain, the metaverse, and the intersection between the two, as well as DeFi, and a little bit about Handelsbanken and how they're approaching the topic. So we have a lot of ground to cover in the next 15 minutes, and with that I'd like to turn our attention to our esteemed guest today, Malin Lignell, VP for Digitalization and Innovation at Handelsbanken. Malin, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Great. So with that, let's dive right into the metaverse. Tell us a little bit about current user behavior when it comes to metaverse and the virtual worlds and other things that we kind of think about as those buzzwordy topics. Is it something that consumers are ready for, or is the industry striking too soon?
No, I think, first of all, I think that's what kind of makes it so interesting, because actually a lot of the behaviors needed for wanting to enter into this metaverse are already existing, and the idea is actually not that new. I mean, we have examples that I know is also being mentioned in the media with Second Life, many years ago, about 15 years ago. So we've kind of, we entered into this discussion that kind of exploded last autumn when Facebook changed the name to Meta and started talking a lot about this Meta, and it became, as you said, this kind of buzzword in media. But millions of people are already interacting and spending tons of time within different kinds of virtual worlds. Just that they are called Minecraft and Roblox and World of Warcraft and all of these other things, and that kind of means I normally do. I think back to when the pandemic struck. I don't know if you remember, but a lot of us, including myself, expressed things like, digitalization has skipped, 10 years ahead. But in fact, it was more like our behaviors, that which is normally the slow mover in change, that kind of caught up with technology already here. So when we look at this, we're saying, well, the underlying behavior of wanting to interact in a virtual world to some extent, that is already established, that is already here. And we are now seeing things happening in terms of technology that will just improve that experience and perhaps make it much more immersive and things like that. So yeah, that would be my take on that.
Yeah, so we're kind of already there then. Well, and I'd like to touch on that, the technology coming up to where we are, and I think part of that is the integration of the blockchain. Can you talk to us a little bit about what the role of the blockchain will play in the metaverse?
Well, I think, first of all, I think we need to just agree on that blockchain and a lot of different kinds of words and concepts in this whole area. There are basically no uniform concepts. So when we look at that, we have public blockchains with all of the preconditions that they enter into this world with, and we have private blockchains with a totally different area. But fundamentally, the possibility to exchange entities of value between two people or two organizations or two nodes to some extent, to do that without the actual need of a middleman. And put that on a blockchain where the transactions are registered and where you cannot really change the history of what has happened. That will be kind of where we see that these two worlds interconnect. So if we will move ahead to kind of this metaverse, let's just fantasize that we will see standards perhaps like when the internet in the 90s, where we saw HTTP standards, meaning we could just change between different websites. That's kind of what the ambition for metaverse is, that we can start interacting and changing between different kinds of virtual worlds. And what Second Life, as an example, did not have was that kind of blockchain technology, for instance, that actually kept control of who owns what value has been exchanged with whom, and ensuring that value chain. And we could talk a lot about that, but that's kind of one of the reasons I think we saw all these spectacular failures where with a lot of industry and headlines with that. But I think that's a fundamental difference between the situation then 15 years ago and what we're seeing now, that we will be able to hopefully then in a safe way actually make these changes of value entities between individuals with the help of blockchain and within these metaverse worlds. So that's what we see, that there's an interconnection with them.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you're kind of saying that like I could go from Decentraland, which is a metaverse universe, to something like Second Life and maintain my same blockchain wallet and maybe purchase, walk into a virtual store in one metaverse and be able to pay for it in one universe and another without having to switch interfaces or switch my wallet or anything?
Well, it could be. And of course, I mean, there are tons of challenges in actually getting there. So of course, and major uncertainties. So we're kind of going out on a limb a little bit here. But I mean, there are also, beyond these, besides the underlying customer behavior, kind of already wanting to be in these kind of virtual worlds, there are also a lot of upgrades being made, especially within the public blockchains at the moment, that if they are successful, and of course that is an if, we do not know, they are not in production yet, but for instance, the blockchain Ethereum 1.0 wanting to go towards, with new consensus algorithms, going to an Ethereum 2.0 that could actually provide us with a much higher speed of transactions, enabling transactions at scale to a larger extent, perhaps handling some of the sustainability challenges that is at least Bitcoin is well known for. Yeah. So there are also a lot of infrastructural underlying trends where we see things will happen within just a few years' time, where we will know if they are successful or not. But if they are successful, there will be a really interesting interface between these two trends merging together.
Yeah. And how, in your opinion, how can banks and fintechs prepare for this eventual reality or this proposed reality that's coming?
I think actually one of the things would be, well, in one end, it would be just hype mitigation, because as I think we see in media, there are a number of headlines with the words metaverse, not least. So understanding, and I think looking more closely at, as I said, these underlying customer behaviors already there, driving the interest and adoption rates when the technology has kind of caught up, and these, as well as then in the other end, these underlying infrastructural changes in terms of blockchain technology that might provide us with another kind of transaction speed, etc., and making it possible in a totally different scale to actually do that, change that value entity between two nodes in the network. So I think look beyond the buzz and look at the underlying infrastructural trends. And also what we do is once we, of course, see all of this happening, that raises many, many more questions than we actually have answers for. And I would also say that sitting today and having a really clear opinion on exactly what this means and exactly where we are going would be something like in the 94, having a really clear view on exactly what internet would mean. So it's really difficult. No one really knows, not really. But what we do is we take all these changes we see and we talk with a lot of people within the organization and outside the organization, and we have examples of collaborations with other parties where we can figure out together what it actually means and what kind of role in this new world then would we be able to take, and what kind of position would our role be in that. So.
Yeah. I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense, kind of looking to your customers first, seeing where they're at and where their interests are, and then looking at the enabling technologies and where those can take you.
Yeah.
So with that, I'd like to switch gears. We have about 5 minutes left and talk a little bit about DeFi. So I know that you can't talk specifically about Handelsbanken's plans when it comes to the e-krona, but can you talk about the country's CBDC and what you've seen across the industry in general when it comes to the cryptocurrency?
I think overall, I can just, I think, and there is a report or a study from Bank of International Settlements saying that a little bit more than 80% of central banks around the globe is actually involved in different kinds of initiatives with regards to CBDCs. But as I said earlier, even in CBDCs, there are really no uniform concepts, because when you look deeply, there are different kinds of technical solutions, different kinds of driving forces behind it, and ways of looking at it. So you really need to dig into every different initiative if you're to be able to compare them. But for us, when this opportunity rose to collaborate with the Swedish Central Bank in their exploration of e-krona, that was a really good way for us to not only try to explore all of these changes that we're talking about on a theoretical level, but also actually gaining real, true field experience. And I mean, blockchain has been kind of on our radar for many years, but a number of years ago, when there was also a true hype around blockchain in many ways, we kind of just, we looked at it from a distance more, what is happening, but we focused on exploring different kinds of emerging technologies. This is where we can get field experience and learn answers and perspectives that also goes beyond the actual technology underlying CBDCs. So in that way, it's a great way for us to explore and try to find and figure out some of the answers in this mysterious world we're kind of entering into.
I like that, mysterious world. Yes, that's what it feels like. Great.
Yeah.
And so we were talking earlier, and you said a lot of this came out of Handelsbanken's Trends Radar. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the Trends Radar and how you found it useful?
Well, Trend Radar is really, it's a tool for us that we've been working with for more than 10 years in various ways. And it's really a really simple visualization where we plot different kinds of emerging technology trends, evaluating what kind of impact we see that they will have on Handelsbanken and within which time frame they will be mature. So for instance, AI previously, perhaps a number of years ago, was said to have a high impact on us in like 2 to 5 years. That is, of course, now moved much closer in time frame. So where AI was a number of years ago, that's where we put these underlying infrastructural changes in blockchain main trends, such as CBDC, such as DeFi, etc. And that is also kind of how we navigate, where we focus our efforts and what we choose not to explore in practice. So that's how we use this. It's kind of the start of an innovation process, and the start just to spur these dialogues and discussions that are so necessary to actually understand what this all will mean for us going forward.
Yeah, it sounds like quite a useful tool as far as determining what to invest time and attention into and maybe what to ignore for now, but perhaps keep on the radar just a little bit.
Yep.
Great. So with that, we are out of time for today. Malin, I'd like to thank you for your time. This has been really enjoyable and quite informative as far as this mysterious world that we're entering into. This has been Malin Lignell, VP for Digitalisation and Innovation at Handelsbanken. To our audience, thank you so much for joining us. We can't wait to catch you for the live in-person sessions at Finovate Europe this year. Thanks, everyone.